Yeah, so on Monday, I presented some of our common thoughts at the Linux Foundation Edge and networking around what the metaverse will be. And as I stated, disclaimed at the beginning, we're not sure yet. But I mean, after 3 days here, I guess the rest of the industry is not sure as well. So we're not in a bad place. And again, as I stated, we're mostly interested in, okay, what would it all mean for the networking infrastructure, for the edge infrastructure, and we have another BoF in 30 minutes about cloud. I think we can talk about both topics and figure out what it would mean for the cloud. And I kind of had a few questions in mind, and when I presented on Monday, I think one of the slides kind of categorized metaverse use cases into like 3 buckets or 3 target markets. One of them, if you remember, was kind of the consumer metaverse, like games and e-commerce and stuff like that in 3D. The other one was more of enterprise, where it's more of kind of collaborative use cases and 3D Zoom or whatever. And the third one was what I call industry metaverse. It's more like you can think of technician using HoloLens for remote assistance in fixing turbines, or digital twins for production floors. So these were the 3 buckets, and I'm kind of curious about your thoughts about what will happen first. So, like, who here thinks that the consumer metaverse will come first? Okay, who thinks the enterprise will come first? And who thinks the industrial? Okay, so we are split pretty much evenly, which is interesting. I mean, again, that's more of an opinion, not any technical knowledge, but to me, at least when I think about the consumer and enterprise, I think someone mentioned it earlier this week, I don't see the motivation or like I don't see the pain point that the metaverse will, yeah, it will enrich, it will provide a better experience, but I think in industrial use cases, there are existing pain points that can be neatly addressed by something like a metaverse or some of the metaverse technologies. This is why I'm sensing that it will happen first. Also, what we're seeing in edge computing is that industry, like industrial use cases and production floors, kind of skipped a few generations of technologies, so they're just now digitizing. So it's maybe the right time for them to adopt the newer technologies, rather than enterprise that just got maybe used to being video centered and having remote workforce, and they're still struggling with adjusting to that transition that happened 2 years ago or less. Whereas industry is moving from the Stone Age to some digitized age, so maybe for them it would be more natural to adopt more metaverse-like technologies. That's just my 2 cents, or my kind of trying to look at the crystal ball, but we'll see. I don't know. I mean, why do you think you said that the consumer will happen first?
Yeah. So we rationally thinking about like demands and why some companies adopt technology or that sort of thing, then I guess your line of thinking or argument makes sense. And that would make sense for a lot of technology, but they don't do it. And there are many generations behind for a reason. I think those reasons still exist. I also think that enterprise will be less likely to be leading in this cycle as well. They were leading in some of the earlier technologies, but ever since the mobile phone, I think enterprise, or like I would consider the office, has been essentially overtaken by consumer tech. So I would say that trend will continue, that in the future, probably the office would not exist even anymore. We already see that happening, but I would say that trend will continue. And so the consumer side, yes, if you ask where's the pain point, well, I think human life we always look for pain point.
Or pleasure points.
Huh?
Or pleasure points, like.
Yeah. If you are all your need are met, then you will find new unmet needs. That's just human nature. So I think humans are unlimited potential will always have, whether you call it pain point or not.
I think it's the business case. Whatever that makes money first, well, go first. Like I think the low-hanging fruit, which is really already happening, is you see all these, like Kim Kardashian and these people. They have all the game. Why are they investing in games? And then on top of games, they start selling their products. And so wherever the money is, will happen. Will drive innovation first.
Yeah. And on that note, I want to, because you mentioned, that nice name, I would think like even the issues we're talking about, like for example, like trying to identify the asset, copying, that sort of thing, I think that's not a priority. I think for these early adopters, they want the publicity much more than trying to control the asset. So I think those will probably go first because that's so much easier to do.
And I think it's also a concurrent thing that's going to happen. I mean, when it comes to, I guess it depends on our definition of metaverse in each of these scenarios. Like, when it comes to industry, maybe AR might be a lot more useful than VR. Maybe digital twins might be more useful than crypto. And when it comes to enterprise, maybe AI. We talk about the metaverse as the convergence of technologies, but each of those specific technologies are going to maybe be more applicable to certain industries more than others, at least to start. And so once we create this web of interoperability amongst all of them, I think they're going to coalesce. There's going to be different drivers that will incentivize the plugging into of that new immersive web. I think that when it comes to, like you were talking about, there's not a whole lot of incentive or really like demand for tracking assets when it comes to skins and things like that, at least right now. People are just comfortable buying whatever assets for whatever environment they spend the most time in, whether that be Call of Duty or Roblox or Fortnite or whatever. I think that for consumers, and there's also sort of like, I think people still like kind of how chaotic the internet is in terms of like memology and that social aspect, but we're running into this, content moderation aspect of it that is necessary. And so that discussion is being had, but no one really knows what to do because it's not a deterministic issue. It's something that has to be handled case by case. And even when you deploy AI to it, what if if I'm existing in a virtual world and I want to transact with somebody in a certain specific way, and I want to verify that maybe I'm going to identify this actor as non-sketchy. Well, what does non-sketchy mean? Well, I'm deploying my model that is trained on certain models or certain data that declares whether or not this person is sketchy or non-sketchy. Well, what if the person that is on the receiving end of that is like, well, that's not fair. That model was trained on biased data or something like that. Like maybe it was trained to view people of the color green as more sketchy, or people that wear Coke shirts and drink Pepsi as more sketchy than not. So how do we determine what is fair in that regard in terms of non-deterministic issues? And I think that's something that's going to hunt that issue down the line for many, many years, I think, because that's going to be something that is so convoluted and so intricate, especially across boundaries and across different domains of creators and inventors that it's going to.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be a consensus that's going to be reached.
Yeah, so questions like fairness, I know it's very, very important. And we should, as a professional, right, we should all take it very seriously and plan it. But I think your question is what will happen first, which is different from what eventually we need to go to. What will happen first is because that issue is so complicated, and you can look at algorithms or the impossibility of them you can think of. So I think the early adopters were trying to avoid that question. So they will probably design things that does not get into that, including payment and digital identities, etc.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I was talking more about like what we have been discussing as the metaverse in the future. I think there's definitely a spectrum that is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have kind of a follow-up on that, and again, trying to be the advocate for the more industrial metaverse. And kind of touching on what you said about different technologies being adopted for the different metaverses. So based on what you said, that many of the problems we need to tackle are not yet solved about identity, but if you think about an industrial use case, maybe you don't need all that complexity. Maybe it's a simple, I'm no industrial expert, but maybe to me as a layperson, maybe running digital twins for Intel's production floor in some fab is simpler than having a metaverse for end users coming from unknown locations, and because it's a very private environment, confined, only limited types of participants.
So we were having lunch together. I think we maybe I will share an example, maybe address that scenario, the three scenarios you're talking about, right? So if you think about metaverse today, the most, I guess, iconic device would be the glass or headset. And so a very industrial way of a headset maybe is like a Magic Leap, so those are designed for enterprise and industrial use. And that device is, I think it's like priced $5,000 or $6,000 a piece. And then a consumer version could be, the rumor, the glass coming from Apple or others, or even the Quest.
Yeah, it's 1,500, the new one from Meta.
Yeah, which is kind of a semi-enterprise because they're trying
call
to.
it Pro.
Because they're trying to say we support Microsoft, which seems like a word for enterprise use. Or the Quest 2 would be more consumer.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right,
that's priced at 1,500.
Yeah. And then we were thinking about like what's the adoption barriers, if you may. The adoption barrier of enterprise and industry is always the people, because you are reasoning with a bureaucracy, and their culture and people who gets what power, and that sort of thing usually slows down the technology adoption in the enterprise. I think we all hear I forgot his name, but in financial industry, why they don't, because there are so many rules.
Yeah, it's the same in telco, I think, you and I both know.
Exactly, right? And that's why it slows, not like they are not aware of it.
Yeah, but Hart, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I was just going to say for your Intel example, Intel might be able to keep everything internally for some things, which would not necessitate like identity or privacy solutions, but they might want to track their whole supply chain. Their supply chain might have competitors on it. And in this case, you're sort of back in a situation where you might need some of these, not as strong as humans identity protection, but like you want to know like where your wafer of silicon came from, kind of thing. And if you have competitors, right, on the same system, like if we're silicon manufacturers and you're Intel, we might be okay with you knowing the information about the wafers, but we might not be okay with each other knowing each other's sort of information. So once you like decentralize these things, there's still a lot of cases where you do want privacy requirements. And you don't need like human level identity, but you do need like some rudimentary form that still gives you privacy protection.
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
And I'm just representing myself, not any opinions of any companies. Just wanted to get
Most
that-
of us do because we don't know much. So
Just
there's
wanted
only
to put
so
that
much we
disclaimer
can-
out there. But yeah, the part that I keep struggling with is the fact that we use this word metaverse at all. Because using the supply chain example, if a company successfully can track its entire supply chain and like have a web page where any consumer can type in the serial number of the product they bought and get a list of the entire journey that product took to them, like that's a problem maybe that has been solved. Does that mean the metaverse was solved there? Does that mean we're very far away from the metaverse? Like I don't know, like I kind of struggle and think like, what if we talked about the travel verse where we had to solve cars and planes and freeways and hotels? And when will that support business travelers? And when will that support people on vacation? And so to me, it's a lot easier to just look at what are the things we're trying to solve. Are we trying to digitize, like how easily and quickly can an industrial, an oil refinery, how quickly and easily can they bring that refinery to visualize it? How quickly can they get data from it? How quickly can they make it physicalize? And each of these are different problems to solve, and we can call the entire umbrella the metaverse, but it's not. Yeah, I guess to me that's not the destination. It's the actual things that we we want to solve that are the destinations.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. One of the things that's, I think, causing a lot of confusion when it comes to the metaverse is that a lot of things seem like solutionism, in that it's like, well, we already have this in place, why do we need this? It's like, okay, well, we need this for XYZ edge case. It's like, okay, how often are we going to run into that? Well, maybe not yet, but in the future we will. Okay, well, should we start building now for the future? Well, yeah, probably. But, okay, how do we get started on that? Well, we don't know. So I think a lot of the things that we talk about in regards to the metaverse is like building to capability, building to that ease that you were talking about, and like how easily I can take one digital asset and then reconfigure it, move it over here, extract knowledge out of it through AI or something like that. And then, I think a lot of it is about automation, it's about identity, but how often we actually need to utilize metaverse capabilities is still a question for me as well. I think that, working to build those capabilities is going to be incredibly powerful. But whether or not a company is going to get value out of it is going to be a very case-by-case basis. And a lot of the things that we've been talking about in regards to, for instance, moving a 3D asset from one game to another, I'm skeptical about, because I'm like, I don't care if I'm playing Call of Duty, I don't want to see Mario, And so, but there might be public open worlds like VR chat where, that is fun. But is it fun in the sense of it's going to be incredibly valuable, or is it fun as in it's a gimmick and it's kind of trendy and it's just like, oh, that's fun, but, in 2 weeks I'm not really going to care about it. You know what I mean? So building out an entire pipeline and infrastructure for something that, people might be like, oh, do you remember when, back in 2022 we were, wearing different avatars and things like that? How silly that was, that was fun. But it's like, no one cares anymore. So I think that there just needs to be a lot more hands-on iteration that needs to happen.
I guess the previous speaker talks about, he believes in evolution, right? People will build their own world for us.
Yeah.
And then one day they say, oh, can we connect? Of course, there must be some reason. So I can imagine one reason, which, I go buy those expensive. It's $1,500 a piece. I can only see things. So I can only see things from to the Facebook Facebook Meta stuff, and it will be like I have a computer. I can only connect to AOL. It's similar, right? I'm like one day I'm gonna say like I wish other people can build something. I can use the same goggle, and now you need interoperability. Now you have a real reason for interface.
I have a question. Has there been any paper that's written for the vision of Metaverse? I mean, obviously, I mean, this whole 3 days, I feel like, I came in brand new, right? Knew a little bit, but I learned a lot, but then I'm also getting more confused too. And I feel like we're trying to define a lot of standards, a lot of way of doing things, but then at the same time, there are a lot of different use cases. Some use cases maybe need authentication, some probably don't care. I mean, for me, I feel like some people go to Metaverse because they want to forget about the real world. That's why they want to get into Metaverse. But then we're trying to do things to tie the Metaverse identity back to the real world. So, we have a lot of circular discussions. I'm just wondering, is there any paper? I mean, when we invented like the internet, was there a blueprint out there and we can develop it? No, so it's like evolving process. So maybe we're going through that again too.
Yeah, and in regards to like resources, I will say that Matthew Ball has written a book called The Metaverse, and I can't remember what the subtitle is, but and that's an interesting take on it, and that has seemed to be widely distributed in terms of like, yeah, this is maybe a good approximation of it, but it's one person's take, and
But that's not the Bible.
it's not a Bible, exactly. Yeah.
I'll look him up.
And I think part of the reason why, it was so easy for the internet to take off is because Tim Berners-Lee was like, I'm going to create HTML, and if you want to adopt it, you can, and everybody adopted the standard. And there wasn't really a whole lot of, I mean, I wasn't alive back then, but my understanding is there weren't a whole lot of competing standards in that regard. But now there is so much in place, and there's so much that we can build on top of. And there's so many ways, there's so many standards that are in place that if we want to use that, we could to instead of another standard. Well, it's like we're talking about building in enforcement and infrastructure that will track things and whatnot. But if I'm a developer, I can just say, I'm just going to use a different standard or a different network or some things like that.
So I really like that comment because I'm trying to say this, find the opportunity to say this. So you've been we both been in networking stand for a long, long time. And there's a sentence called, don't prematurely standardize. And I think we are a little bit prematurely trying to standardize everything. Like, I think it's better to just understand what the needs are and what are solutions possible and wait until the need to standardization actually shows up.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of agreeing that there will be maybe multiple incarnations of metaverses, maybe the Travelverse, the Marioverse, the Call of Dutyverse. And I'm just wondering aloud, like you gave the example of the World Wide Web and how early on it became just one network. And I was there as an early adopter, and I trying to think, why did it make sense to me to use the same technology that I use for academic research, for shopping, there was no video streaming there, but I don't know, but looking for art or whatever. What would be the motivation for like merging those discrete metaverses? Maybe it will be like monetary one where you can use your assets in one metaverse to buy goods in the other one. Maybe that there will be a commercial drive.
Yeah, so I share with you one reason I want that. That's I don't want to buy another goggle. So I think that's a very physical and exact reason. Whether I want to carry goods I think that's a question mark. I don't know. Maybe one day I want, but at this moment I'm not sure.
I can give from the industry example. I think one place where this will probably come up in the next 5 years or so. All you need is 2 companies, each one makes $1 million investment to build a digital twin, and then one of those companies buys out the other one. And now
So
they just
M&A will be the way to merge the
yeah,
metaverses.
because they will now have two competing systems that they need to merge. And now there's a business case and a very immediate need to do something about it. We've seen it.
It's a very common use case for them.
Yeah, and so I think it's just like that's where I think these things can start showing up with driving needs.
So another way of reason for this virtual world to connect, and these are hypothetical, I don't think there's a real need today, would it be if they start to trading or people say buying and selling stuff, then a bigger connected market is more efficient, or it will be cheaper to the consumer if the markets are connected. So that would be a real reason as well.
Yeah, the economics of size and
Right. But that's a hypothetical. We don't have that today.
So we haven't talked about edge yet.
yeah. So, by the way, we have the following session, so we'll maybe take a break of 10 minutes, and then we can continue pretty much the same discussion. So stick around. But I think just to remind you, my initial question about what will be the technology needs and whether there are uniform technology needs for edge and network for all the metaverses, or then this is how we started the discussion about how many metaverses. And I really wanted to kind of close it down with maybe, so with the question of assuming we will at least start with multiple metaverses. How much commonality will there be in the technology, and how much each metaverse will have its own, I mean, like taking two extreme examples, that production floor for Intel and my kids playing games, like how much common technology, if at all, will be between those two use cases?
And I'm curious about how the CSPs can make money from metaverse. Like what kind of business ideas and business models they might be thinking in terms of metaverse. Because I think CSPs have look, we have Amazon here sponsoring this event, right? I mean, I think they're the ones who care about, the realization of metaverse. But I'm just curious what kind of metaverse services or anything related to metaverse that they can make money from.
So it's kind of related, again, coming from the networking side, like the 5G and especially technologies like network slicing are also raising the same question. Okay, we have 5G networks, we can do network slicing, at least theoretically, but what's the use case? Like how will anybody make money out of slicing a 5G network? Is there really a business drive for it? And I think that 3GPP was rushing to standardize it, but where is the use case? I mean, recently I've started reading analysts saying, yeah, maybe it's all a big hoax, or maybe we can do without it, and maybe that technology was not required in the way that it was invented. So I think that can be extrapolated to the metaverse, and okay, we can imagine some technology, we can even standardize it at some point, but as you say, how would anybody make money out of it? And that would be, I mean, again, going to the World Wide Web example, I think people figured out early on how to make money, and that drove a lot of the innovation. But here, I don't know, I think we heard from Accenture that their customers are kind of wanting a piece of the pie and seeing some green pictures of presidents exchanging hands, and they want a piece of it. But I'm not sure that that's the right motivation to do the metaverse, just because somebody saw some dollar bills exchanging hands. So I think we can we'll break and then do the next session, but we can start off where we left. So I think we have 10 minutes. You can take a bio break and come back. But do come back.